Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, the editor-in-chief of Total Retail. I am joined on today's episode by Christina Chang, the Vice President of Procurement and Planning at Adore Me. Christina and I are going to be discussing Adore Me's commitment to inclusive sizing and how it's such a core piece of the brand's business. So thanks for joining me today, Christina.
Hi, Joe. Thanks for having me today. Looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you on the show. So to get us started, can you tell our audience a little bit about Adore Me for those that might not be familiar with the company?
Sure. So Adore Me is a digitally native direct-to-consumer brand that specializes in women's wear. Our product portfolio includes intimates, sleepwear, swimwear, activewear, apparel, cosmetics, and femtech offerings as well. And when I mean femtech, I'm referring to period panties and products like menopause cooling products. So we have a broad product assortment. Our bread and butter has been in the intimates industry. We have been in operation for over a decade now, generating over 200 million annual revenue, and we currently have over 1.3 million active customers.
Thank you for that. And puts a good overview of the brand for those that are new to Adore Me. In a similar vein, can you tell us a little bit about your professional background and your current role at Adore Me?
As Joe mentioned earlier, I'm the VP of Procurement and Planning here at Adore Me. I've been with the company for over 4 years now. Prior to Adore Me, I spent several years in finance and then some time in consumer product goods, specifically in the health and wellness industry. My Adore Me journey has been with this procurement and planning team since the beginning. I now currently manage the team that is responsible for demand planning and inventory management. So I had to dive into that. What does that actually mean? For those of you who aren't familiar with the Adore Me model, we launch new showroom collections every month. So from the assortment that our designers develop for a particular showroom month, my team determines which of those products to buy, how much to buy, and in which sizes. We also make decisions around replenishments of best-selling products and ensure that we always have appropriate levels of inventory on hand of these kind of evergreen products, let's call them. Ultimately, we work very closely with our design and merchandising teams to make sure that we make the right decisions when it comes to our product assortment and when it comes to our inventory.
Yeah, which actually is a great lead into the follow-up question I have, Christina, in terms of that work you're doing with your merchandising and inventory teams, and inclusive sizing, as I alluded to in our introduction. That's really such a core piece of Adore Me's business plan. Can you talk about what inclusive sizing means for Adore Me and how you kind of that's manifested in the product offering?
Sure. So I think, first, I would say that inclusivity is an intrinsic part of the Adore Me identity. It's been a part of our mission since the early days of the company. We were the first intimates player to actually offer a fully inclusive size range, and that means over 77 sizes to be more specific. And we started doing this years ago before our competitors even made it their focus. I think how we got into this focus on inclusivity is when the company started, we noticed this gap in the industry almost immediately. Most brands in the industry catered towards a very cookie cutter version of what the average woman looks like. And unfortunately, a lot of customers weren't being acknowledged or served by other brands in the industry. So in Adore Me, we saw this gap. We also were getting a lot of demand from our customers directly as well. And we knew we needed to fill that gap that wasn't being addressed by other players immediately. However, we also knew we needed to address it in a thoughtful and strategic manner. We weren't going to rush into it and offer subpar products that didn't fit correctly just to kind of get on some marketing bandwagon. We knew we had to really adapt our processes and tools to accommodate this size inclusivity. And I think one thing I really do want to underscore here is that inclusivity is an operational challenge. It's not a marketing challenge. a lot of players in the industry, as we've seen, have started with very marketing first approaches towards inclusivity. And unlike them, Adore Me started with a customer focused and business first approach. Our commitment to inclusive sizing it represents our respect for our customers. Our customers represent women from all walks of life, from all types of backgrounds, of all shapes, sizes, preferences, needs, and to not support these diverse needs would be an absolute disservice to our customers and to the larger community beyond that.
My follow-up is, considering that you heard this, interest from your customers, the demand was there, and you want to be putting out products in the market that fulfill a need for your customers, and being a customer first brand, that that having the right product seems to be at the top of the list. So talk a little bit about, before you jump into this market of plus size, what you're doing to ensure that the collections are profitable, and that you can then continue to produce them as long as that they remain profitable and the demand is there for your customer.
Right. And that's a really great question. As I mentioned, inclusivity is really an operational challenge, not a marketing one. With intimate apparel, especially, it's very complex. We tend to have longer lead times than other types of apparel. Generally, let's say at least 12 to 18 months are needed for design and development, and another 6 to 8 months for production. And aside from that, the constructions of the garments themselves, usually products with underwires, are a lot more complex, to the breadth of the size range that we're offering. We're not just offering XS to 4X, we're offering alphanumeric cup sizes from 30A to 46G. So the complexities from inclusivity definitely have presented them to us over the years. What we have done on our side to really make sure that we're approaching this in the right manner is, I think, as I mentioned earlier, we did not rush into just buying products, expanding size ranges, and just seeing what sticks. So I think a lot of the learnings we've gotten at Adore Me have also been from what we've seen in the industry, and kind of actions that other brands have taken that didn't necessarily pan out in the right way. I'll take Old Navy as an example, and just to be clear, this is not meant to bash them. It's just a helpful illustration to kind of showcase the different elements that we're very cognizant of. So with Old Navy, I think some of you may be familiar with the fact that last year they launched their body quality campaign to expand their size offering. And I think that the intention behind this was great for the industry, but the approach they took was, as I alluded to earlier, a marketing first approach. Big part of kind of the dismal results that they saw from this campaign came from trying to expand the size offering too broadly and too quickly. So when it comes to retail, you have finite space, so you need to make decisions on the size range you want to offer in stores. And when you go from non-inclusive sizing to a proliferation of sizes that you don't usually offer, how do you make the right procurement and merchandising decisions? You won't be able to offer every product in every size in every store. And so there's a balance that you need to strike in the assortment. So I think unfortunately for Old Navy, they made the wrong inventory planning decisions. In many stores, only very small sizes or very large sizes were available, with a lot of kind of intermediary sizes being completely out of stock. And I think on the one hand, the lack of merchandise in their standard sizes slowed down sales. And on the other hand, the excess amount of those newer kind of plus sizes caused a lot of inventory accumulation in stores. So when a customer makes a mistake in size, of course, an exchange or return solves the problem. But when the company makes the mistake, especially on such a large scale, the consequences can be a lot more serious. And ultimately, Old Navy had to kill the program. And this kind of action is, of course, really sad for the industry because it kills the momentum of inclusivity in retail. So why am I sharing this example? I'm sharing it because I wanted to highlight kind of the different limitations and constraints that we need to consider when, as we expanded our offering to include more plus sizes. As I said, we at Adore did not want to rush into adding, we didn't want to rush into adding products in inclusive sizes just for the sake of kind of launching a marketing campaign. We really wanted to ensure that it became an intrinsic part of our core business and of our day-to-day processes and tools. So what we've done is really to kind of take the time to work with our manufacturers, partner with them to really kind of make sure that we don't sacrifice quality just to, again, kind of jump onto some marketing bandwagon. With kind of planning, with planning and inventory management, it becomes even more important for us to leverage our tools to make sure that we're buying into the right sizes and allocating the right sizes to both our kind of online presence as well as the retail stores we have. And this is, again, it's been an iterative process over the years, but we've continued to build our tool suite to make sure that we're planning and addressing that customer demand appropriately.
So I think a couple things that you've talked about there, Christina, that are really important to note and follow up on is just the amount of detail that went into the planning process here. Like you said, this wasn't just, you wanted to hitch the brand to a marketing campaign to get that kind of, just publicity that your size inclusive brand. There was a lot more than that. And this kind of led to a well thought out merchandising approach and planning approach. So talk a little bit about customer feedback there, because
Right.
it's one thing to be your merchandising team and your inventory planning and you're doing all this analysis behind the scenes internally, but you also want to be, taking into account what your customers are telling you. So tell us a little bit about how that feedback from your customers impacted the rollout of your size inclusive collections.
Right. That's, I think, some really great points. I think for Adore our customer feedback and our customer demand are really the core of how we plan our assortment and inventory. We've always been, mining insights from that feedback. As I said before, Adore has a customer focused approach. So when we went into plus sizes, we saw that customers were asking for a more, broader size range. They were asking for more underwired baby dolls in plus sizes. They were asking for, more bras that could offer them support. And, from the kind of early stages of going into this size expansion, we knew that this was going to become a part of our core business. It wasn't just a passing whim. Our customer base represents kind of so much diversity that we knew we had to make sure that we were addressing that. When I think in general, from the early days until now, we're always looking to see if a customer is commenting on a size kind of being out of stock for a certain product, whether or not when she goes on the website and filters by her size, if she notices that she doesn't really have as many products to choose from. This is kind of this assortment and inventory planning has always been, centered around that customer demand. When, especially as I mentioned, since we are dealing with so many operational complexities, we are buying into the sizes and buying into the quantities for those sizes that make sense. We're not just buying into a product just for the sake of fulfilling, okay, we need 50 units of 38G just because. No, we have a lot of data science that goes behind our forecasting and our inventory planning and knowing kind of exactly how much we need of this particular size. This is all driven by that customer demand and customer feedback. We are constantly monitoring that and making sure that we're always offering something for every type of customer and that no customer feels left out, maybe because she doesn't have the typical core sizing that the industry is used to.
So I'm going to follow up because I think that piece about the data science behind. So you and your team are doing all of this assortment and demand planning work to figure out, we have the right inventory, it's at the quality we want, it's in the places where we want it to be, and it's serving the customer demand for it. But there's obviously not just humans at work there. Here you're utilizing technologies in certain ways to help improve that customer shopping experience. So can you talk a little bit more about that data science piece and how that factors into your processes.
Sure. There are a couple areas where we really leverage technology when it comes to kind of meeting that customer demand for certain sizes. At Adore Me, we've actually built a lot of tools in-house, proprietary tools that we use to help us forecast that demand. Where kind of this need came from is we initially found that a lot of the tools, third-party tools that were offered out there weren't necessarily catered to our needs. And I think from a lot of the data that we gathered, we leveraged that and built it into a tool that could allow us to more accurately predict the demand per size, while of course taking into account the demand coming from customers. I think that this sort of these sort of tools that we are really critical to our business, and it also allows us to make sure that we're not overbuying inventory, and that we're also buying the right inventory at the right time. And I would say that another kind of area in which we're using this kind of technology to help improve kind of our customers' experiences is also in our home try-on service. This is a subscription-based service where the customer gets 4 to 8 products a month, and like most subscription services, they can keep what they want, send back what they don't want. This service, home try-on, makes it easier for customers to find their right fit. I think in general, with the technology that goes behind it, there's a lot of there's a lot of data points that go behind the curation of the items the customer gets. We're cognizant of, okay, these sizes, this is the size that the customer indicated, and here are sister sizes in case she can't. In case the particular product that we want to send her isn't available in her normal size, then we can also kind of go into sister sizes that would fit her just as well. And I think when it comes to other types of products that we offer in our home try-on service, we're also leveraging kind of the data that goes behind the right sizing and the right fit for the customer. With the home try-on too, it's obviously it creates a more comfortable and meaningful shopping experience for the customer. They can try on things in the comfort of their own home rather than going to the store, maybe having kind of an exchange with the person at the store that makes them feel uncomfortable. I think sometimes being able to kind of try on intimates at home makes it makes it a lot easier. And it also makes it easier for them to find their right size, because as we said, they're always able to kind of send things back if they don't like it. We are always looking at that kind of feedback. If we send something and it doesn't fit right, what does it mean for us? Did we not send the right size to begin with? Or are we, do we need to kind of do some refitting on that style to make sure that the bands don't fit as tight, or that the straps are not as loose? And this is we are leveraging this data to make improvements in our assortment, and we're always using that to make sure that we that we're offering the right products and offering the right quality.
Yeah, and as you're talking about how you're using some of these in-house built technology tools, my thought comes to one, it's you've talked about how it's improving the customer experience, but then obviously there's the bottom line benefits of you're reducing overstocks and out of stocks, and then also it would seem to me that you can reduce return rates so that there's a positive financial impact there as well.
Exactly. And I think that is actually another driver on when we're looking at returns from customers. We are pulling through their feedback and checking to see if they make these comments about bands fitting too tightly, or cups being too loose, or straps being too loose. These are items that we really do take to heart, and especially when it's a style that we're kind of continuing to develop and continuing to replenish, we make sure that if refitting is needed, we go through that process. And I think ultimately I would say that with return rates, we actually do have pretty low return rates compared to the rest of the industry. We're generally averaging kind of in single digits. And that really is coming from the fact that we listen to our customer feedback, and we take that and incorporate it into our product development and improvements, as well as kind of the technology that we're using to kind of make sure that we are buying into the right sizes and buying into the right products.
Yeah, and I think proof of that is a single digit return rate in a category that generally averages much higher than that. So that's
Right.
testament to the work that you're doing and to the tools that you're using. Finally, Christina, as we start a new year here, can you talk about some of the important trends that you're focused on at Adore Me? It can be both within your own team and your own department, as well as across the organization.
Yeah, so I think one of the main focuses that we have going into the new year, but that we've also been dedicated towards in the last couple of years, it's really around sustainability as well. I think that we've seen industry research indicating that only 20% of sustainable products that are currently in the market cater to plus sizes. And it's, it's almost like we're repeating the same process again, where retailers, again, are neglecting a key demographic within their customer base. And this is something that we're very cognizant of as we're expanding our sustainable collection and offerings. We're making the same kind of efforts that we put into inclusive sizing. We are making sure that when we order a product, when we develop and order a product, that we are developing into plus sizes where we can. It's not really part of the Adore Me DNA to just launch a product in core sizes. It's important for us to also ensure that it caters to a larger size range. And so when it comes to sustainable products, we've been really working hand in hand with our manufacturers. When you take the challenges of offering inclusive sizing and tack on this layer of sustainability, it creates an even more challenging combination. But we have the tools and infrastructure in-house to be able to support and scale that. And we also have the partnerships with our manufacturers to be able to support that. I think we've had a lot of healthy debates around costs with our manufacturers, and when it comes to both offering the kind of plus size products as well as offering sustainable and plus size. And I think that the commitment that we've made towards really improving that development with our manufacturers has really paid off over the years. As our manufacturers have continued to grow with us, they've also adapted a lot of their processes and have found ways to kind of work with us to reduce costs. Especially as we've grown with greater volumes, we're also able to find more cost savings and booking more raw materials, being able to kind of manage the raw materials for sustainable products, especially knowing that we are covering both core and plus sizing. So it's, again, I think it's been a testament to our commitment in the last 8+ years in developing into inclusive sizing, into sustainability, that has really, I think, allowed our manufacturers to kind of step up and be able to work with us to kind of meet those costs, those right cost targets.
Yeah, and you're doing it, much like you've done with the size inclusivity of your products, as you move further into becoming more of a sustainable organization in terms of the product. Doing that to meet consumer demand for it, but also doing it, financially savvy. You've created these relationships with your manufacturers. You have the tools in house to do this, both to meet customer demand, but also so that it makes sense for the Adore Me business as well.
Yep, and I think one thing I also did not mention earlier was with a lot of our manufacturers, some of them actually weren't even in the kind of plus size space before we started working with them. And as I said, we've grown with them in the last few years. They've actually, I think, by virtue of working with us, have started to work more with other customers on plus size offerings. And I think in many ways that's really, I think, a testament to the headway that we're trying to make in the industry for more inclusivity. I'm glad that they're able to kind of leverage synergies from our partnerships and be able to kind of share best practices, kind of share that sort of manufacturing best practices with kind of other customers they might work with, because this hopefully can help drive more brands to make bigger strides faster when it comes to inclusivity and sustainability.
Yeah, spread the movement beyond just Adore Me across the industry. That's a great point. So I want to take the opportunity to thank Christina Chang, the Vice President of Procurement and Planning at Adore Me, for joining us on this episode of Total Retail Talks. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you, Joe, for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Talks.